Hey guys, we're going to do another video here for chapter 2, and we're going to talk about ordering rational numbers. We all know what rational numbers are because we've been talking a lot in class about them, but they're numbers that can be represented as fractions. So decimals and fractions and percents, that kind of a thing. We want to practice putting them in order from least to greatest. That's a skill that we need to have. So we're going to try an example here. We're going to do example 1. And we have a series of fractions and decimals here, and we want to order them from least to greatest. I think I'm going to add that to my directions here. Least to greatest. Sometimes the directions will say greatest to least. Not very often, but sometimes. So least to greatest means smallest to biggest, basically. And when we talk small to big, we're really thinking in our heads about a number line, because we have negative numbers that we're dealing with here. So I see 1, 2, 3 fractions and a decimal. And so when I look at this, there's different ways we could do this. We could change every single one of these into a decimal. That would be one way, so they're easy to compare. Let's try it that way for this first problem. Let's take each of these and rewrite it. So negative 5/9 is going to be a decimal. It's going to be negative 0 point something. Instead of doing my long division, just to kind of go quicker on this, I'm going to use my calculator and just figure out what's 5 divided by 9. I happen to know it's going to be 0.5 repeated over and over and over again, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. So what we're going to do is we're going to write negative 0.5 repeated is what that decimal is. Now negative 1 3/4 is negative 1 point something. 3/4, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do 3 divided by 4. I'm hoping a lot of you have 3/4 kind of memorized because it's one of the ones we should start to remember, and that's 0.75. 3 divided by 4. Now 13 divided by 8, let's see, 13 divided by 8, let's just type that in, is 1.625. So this is negative 1.625 as a decimal. And then my last one is negative 0.6. It's already a decimal. So this is going to help my mind kind of figure out where to put these in order on a number line. We are looking at all these negative decimal values. So here's 0 on a number line. Here's 1, here's 2, here's 3. But we're really talking about the other side. So here's negative 1, here's negative 2, here's negative 3. Let's kind of place these decimals where they would be located. So which one's going to be farthest out to the left? Let's start with that. Well, we have, here's negative 1, here's negative 1.75 and 1.625. 75 is going to be the farthest out here. That's going to be like right here. Negative 1.75. It's going to be right there on the number line. That number is going to be farthest to the left. So what I'm going to do is as I'm ordering these on the number line, I'm going to cross it out so that I can easily remember that, like, okay, I've already done that number. So the next number to come in order is going to be this negative 1.625. That's a little farther over. It's like right here, but it's pretty close to the other numbers. Negative 1.625. It's going to go on the number line. So I'm going to get rid of this one. Now I only have 2 more numbers left. I have negative 0.6 and negative 0.5 repeated. They're so close to each other. But 0.6 is going to be a little bit more this way. Here's negative 0.6. Here's negative 0.5 repeated. They're like side by side almost. So that takes care of my last 2 values. So as far as like least to greatest goes, you can tell that my least number is the negative 1.75. Then it's the negative 1.625. Then it's the negative 0.6. And then it's the negative 0.5 repeated, left to right. The only thing I have left to do is, because the answer started, or the question started with fractions, is I'm going to change these decimals back into those original fractions. So like the 1.75, negative 1.75 was here. It was really negative 1 3/4. So this is negative 1 3/4. The negative 1.625, that's this one. That was negative 13/8 in this problem. The negative 0.6 actually was a decimal the whole entire time. Negative 0.6 is how they gave it to us. And the negative 0.5 repeating was this one. It was the 5/9. So I'm going to write negative 5/9. Now this thing I'll circle is my answer from least to greatest. So that's kind of one way you can do this. You can change all the numbers into decimals so it's easier to kind of think about. Here's another way. a lot of times what we'll do is we'll look at these numbers and we'll estimate. So for example 2, we have a mix again of fractions and decimals. We have 17 tenths, negative 2.1, 1/4, and negative 2/3. And the directions are to go from least to greatest again. So least to greatest. So this time, instead of turning them all into decimals, I'm going to go more for an estimation. First off, I'm going to notice that 17 tenths is a value that is greater than 1. 10 divides into 7 one time. It's like 1 point something as a decimal. So I know that that value of that fraction is bigger than 1. I also know that 1/4 is really close to 0. I know that it's less than 1. 1/4 is a value less than 1. So that's going to be helpful information. I know that negative 2/3 is going to be a decimal less than 0, smaller than 0. And I know negative 2.1 is going to be the most negative number. So I know it's a really highly negative number compared to the other values that we're looking at. So on a number line, I can really estimate this problem. Here's 0. Let's put 1 and 2 here. And let's put negative 1 and negative 2 here. Well, here's what I know. 17 tenths is greater than 1. It's somewhere out here. I don't know where at all, but I know it's somewhere over here. Negative 2.1, well, here's negative 2, so negative 2.1 is like right next to it. It's going to be like right there. 1/4 is very close to 0. It's less than 1. 1/4 would be like right about here if I had to estimate. And negative 2/3 means I'm to the left of 0 and I'm between the negative 1. I'm like right here somewhere. So without knowing all the decimals, I can see the order from least to greatest. First, it's negative 2.1 is the least, then it's negative 2/3, then it's positive 1/4, and then 17 tenths. And I found my answer with the number line with estimation without having to do all that converting to decimals. So that's another way you can do these problems. So hopefully that helps. The idea with this video is you just want to be able to put numbers in order from small to big, remembering that the most negative is the most least. So you got to keep that in mind on the number line. Okay, thanks guys.